You are now tuned in to the Lineman Lounge, the world's thickest sports podcast, with your hosts, Mike and Evo.
¿Cómo están, bitches? This is the Lineman Lounge. I'm Mike. That's Evo. And we are here Saturday, the day before. Geez, starting off already a whole week. A day before conference championship games. We have a lot of coach hirings. We got a couple games we got to pick. We got some bets for people as well. And then also, we got brackets to talk about because I went through calculated brackets. We'll talk about that a little later. But, brother, Evo, man, how you doing?
Good, man. It's the weekend.
Hell yeah.
Actually getting some interesting stuff to do at work right now, which is pretty cool. So it made the week go by pretty damn quick, and excited to actually go to work the next 2 weeks for some stuff. So that's cool. But yeah, chilling, playing a lot of video games where I'm killing Pokemon and shit like that.
Yeah.
In a non-Pokemon game. This is pretty fucking cool. And working out, getting ready for that 40-yard dash because we got the combine coming up here real quick.
Combine is coming up. You're going to run the 40, huh?
Yeah. Gotta, put myself out there. I'm declaring for the draft.
Yeah, you are declared. And since you're not getting invited to the combine, we'll have to do our own private workouts. That's awesome.
But just as, a lot of the top end talent, and since I do fit in that class, I'm probably not, I'm probably just doing the 40 and then maybe a height weight. That's about it. So, if anyone wants to see any of that stuff, you have to come to my very, very private pro day where you actually have to pay to come in.
Yeah, there you go. Nice. Charge the people. That's what we need. But, man, we have there's some storylines. There's some awesome storylines that happened throughout this last week. And it all kind of centered around, a big one story centered around the games last week and kind of how they worked out. But more so than the way the games played out, there is a person that is constantly in the stands now for Chiefs fans. And people just... They don't like it. They can't stand her. And I got to tell you, I don't understand why. Not Jason Kelce. So Jason Kelce is a godsend to the football world. That exchange, right? Taylor Swift. I don't know Taylor, but the public image is a very sweet young lady. Country star or pop star, whatever it is. And then she's out there with a big old bear like Jason Kelce, just ripping his shirt off, housing beers. It feels right. Like Jason is a stud for that.
And not to completely break off from what you were going to go in there with the T Swift stuff, but I did listen again to the New Heights podcast this last week where Jason basically recaps his day and he was drinking from the get-go.
Oh, he was out there with Bill's Mafia drinking.
Oh yeah, he's extremely high on the Bills Mafia, enjoying it. He didn't go through any tables, even though he wanted to, but it was kind of talked away from that.
His wife's name is Kylie, right?
Yeah, she did not want him to, even though he said that he wanted to, and I think she had talked him out of it. But he was taking shots and drinking right off the rip in the morning. Hanging out with Bill's Mafia, having a blast, and then once he got into the booth, he basically said by the end of the show, he's like, I told Kylie I'm doing this, and she's like, no, you're not. And he's like, I'm not asking for permission. I'm just telling you I'm going to rip my shirt off, and I'm jumping out of this box.
This is
just so you're aware. And he had a fucking blast. It's a true football fan type of mentality, where you have the wherewithal to be able to go to these games, be in a box, experience it, and have that intimate knowledge of the game. But he's been playing for so long, and the Eagles, very recently have been in the playoffs and stuff like that. So he's not getting to experience A, professional football as a fan, and B, professional football at its highest levels in the playoffs. And so he's getting to experience all this and be rooting for your brother, have a solid investment in it like that. So it's a culmination of things for him where he's getting to, I'm not saying, obviously he hasn't retired yet or anything like that. And there's, a possibility that he returns in some capacity, which if he does, he's a free agent, I believe. And wouldn't that be funny if him and his brother ran it back on the same team?
In Cleveland?
I mean, they're both, from that area.
That's right, baby. They're both from Cleveland Heights.
Travis isn't a free agent or anything like that, but Jason, I'm pretty sure is.
We'll take Jason this year, and then I don't know if we're going to get Jason for more than 1 year, though.
And
I like Ethan Postage. I like Ethan, so.
You have to start looking at how many kegs can you buy and all that. And,
yeah.
Yes, Jason Kelsey is a free agent this year. So, I mean, that's a narrative that some reckless speculation, if you will, that maybe he were to find his way to be around his brother a little bit more or something.
And then you get the image to end all images. This is just national TV. He's out there. And then you get fucking tools like this guy trying to rip off his vibe. And yeah.
You didn't have the Labatt Blue, so it didn't completely.
I did not, yeah. I needed the beer in the hand. I needed the Labatt. However, my scar matches his belly hair like you would not believe, bro.
Yeah. It's a vertical line.
Vertical line. Oh, man. I love the Jason Kelsey thing. And honestly, I like the Taylor Swift thing too. I don't care if she's at the games. I don't care if they show her. It brings more eyes, more attention to the NFL. The more NFL fans there are, the better. As long as we're not creating more Cowboys fans.
Yeah, that it's a love-hate thing for me because just like you said, all the reasons why you are for it, I'm cool with. It's just the non-football narrative stuff that starts to break into more of our football realm as far as hey, if we're talking professional sporting football stuff right now, Taylor Swift doesn't actually play a role in stats and
none of it
and stuff like that.
But that's kind of why I like it. But that's kind of why I like this whole thing, because you get a segment of the population that gets super pissed off hearing about Taylor Swift. She has absolutely no bearing on the game whatsoever. She is literally just the girl in the stands watching a game. It doesn't.
That's their next song, actually.
It might be
fans watching the game.
That's all it is. It's just somebody in the stands watching the game. Who fucking cares that it's Taylor Swift? Yeah. I'm sure Travis cares that his girlfriend there supporting him.
Well, you saw the touchdown celebration. He went,
oh yeah, of course. Yeah. It's great. I don't understand the narrative. Oh, she's ruining. Shut up. It's not ruining it. It's a different avenue to approach selling the NFL to a different fan base. There's only so many 18 to 36-year-old males in this fucking country that are watching the NFL. Not that women don't watch football, but the numbers are less than women that watch the game. Yeah. Taylor brings more women to the game. That's a good thing.
Sure. Now, I will say that this is a depreciating product, though.
This is good for one season.
As much as I don't care, if this carries on into the next season, I'm going to be like, this narrative is really played out.
Yeah. This is good for one season. Let's get more eyes to the NFL, and then we'll move on. But, all right. Should we start with recapping these games that happened this last weekend?
Yeah, sure. Let's do it. That first game, Texans and Ravens out in Baltimore. Ravens ended up taking that one 34-10. This was our biggest point differential of any of our games. But it was tied at halftime. The game looked pretty legit by halftime. Ravens came out, were able to get another score in the third quarter to get up 17-10, and it still looked like it was within arm's reach. And then the Ravens just kind of turned on that extra gear and got 17 points there in the fourth quarter. So, I mean, in my opinion, congratulations to the Texans and what they were able to do. It's tough with all of these games that we're talking about from last week and going into this weekend's games to balance the correct line of talking about injuries, because injuries played a major factor last week and they're going to play a major factor this week. But every one of these teams has injuries, and so it's not an excuse. But if you have injuries and guys beat up, you have to find a way to, continue on with your brand of football, and that's the good ones do. The Texans are a budding team as far as being able to compete, and I would say probably 90% of people wouldn't have expected them to make the playoffs, let alone the divisional round. So this just is, the signs are pointing in the right direction for the Texans. Congrats to them for getting as far as they did. But the Ravens team obviously is pretty damn legit, and they're going to be a really tough team for anyone to face the rest of this year, aka just the Chiefs or possibly in the Super Bowl.
Yeah. So Houston played well for a half, but the defense was able to really affect Stroud. They brought a lot of different looking blitzes, everything behind a zone blitz with disguises. He had a tough time finding much room. And then Lamar did Lamar Jackson things, man. Like he played like the MVP of the league. Now, granted, he didn't throw for a ton of yards, but 16 to 22, 152 and 2 touchdowns. Okay, fine. He didn't give me a ton of yards. But then you fucking rip off 100 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns as well as my quarterback. I live with that all day, every day, and I'm asking for fucking seconds.
Yeah. It's really, I mean, this has been a conversation for a while, but it's going to really make a lot of those teams question, should we have put in offers for him? We have
2
no idea.
first-round picks.
We have no idea if the Ravens would have matched or not.
They would have matched.
They probably, but you just don't know. The contract that he has right now, I'll bring this up, and this might be a little bit of a sore spot for you, okay? But Deshaun Watson, right? So the players.
It's funny you bring this up. I was literally just arguing before the show started on Twitter about what I expect to see from Deshaun Watson. All I want is performances that are commensurate with his salary and draft capital cost. That's all I want. And I will root for him till the day I die.
Fucking lot at this point.
Yeah, exactly. That's the fucking point of that.
Yeah, it's the teams that were players for Lamar Jackson, in particular the Atlanta Falcons. They're potentially in players for Lamar Jackson, but they were definitely in on Deshaun Watson. And I believe that was where he was set to go before Cleveland came in with kind of the blockbuster fully guaranteed.
The poison pill guaranteed contract, yeah.
Right. And they were going to be giving, like, the amount of picks that were given up for Deshaun and the money is way more than what Lamar got in his contract this year.
Oh, 100%.
And it would have been, let's say the Falcons offered what Lamar got this year, plus those 2 first-round picks. It's still less than what Deshaun Watson was traded for. And when you put it in that sort of a lens, everybody should have been on the table.
Everybody should have been trying to get Lamar Jackson.
When you look at these rookie quarterbacks, right, we're talking for a team to trade up into the 3rd or 4th spot. And yes, I've been doing a lot of draft analysis, so I've been not only looking at the new adjusted trade charts, but historical, what teams are doing to move up from, let's say, pick 11 to like pick 4. I don't know why I picked those, but like something along those lines. The trade value charts are talking about like a swap of first this year, a first next year, and like a 3rd round pick this year or something like that in that
it's
value.
Not enough in the
But we're not talking
NFL.
about the economic value of the position, which specifically quarterback. We're talking. My Vikings tried to trade 3 first-round picks, Danielle Hunter, a top defensive end in this league, and extra picks on top of that.
To go and get Anthony Richardson.
And the Colts said, nah. Like, that's the sort of capital that we're talking about to move up to some of these spots. And just starting at 3 first-round picks, that is more than we're talking about for what you needed to give up for Lamar.
Yep.
So...
Yeah,
it's making a lot of people question what the fuck.
Panthers were one of the first teams to come out and say, no, we don't want Lamar. We don't need Lamar. Fuck. Like, if you're a Panthers fan, you're ready to burn down David Tepper's house.
Well before that. But, I mean, I was championing Lamar to the Jets instead of Aaron Rodgers. I was like, it's
more economical.
Like it's going to be roughly the same cost, maybe cheaper. Draft pick wise, you give up a little bit more, maybe, but your long-term success and future and becoming more of a modern NFL quarterback team, like it's I'm 100% sold on that, and it wasn't even on the table from my understanding. So
Now I understand some people do not like the style because it limits what you can do on offense sometimes, right? But Lamar has shown this year that he can be a pretty efficient passer. He's not going to be a guy who can light it up, but he doesn't have to be because he's going to get you almost 1,000 yards of rushing as well. He got a lot more efficient this year in a new offense. So people, I think, were maybe a little leery before that his passing hadn't developed enough. But now you look at this year, like the numbers are way better. This is, I think, his best statistical year passing wise from an efficiency point. And that is something that everybody should want. You're not going to have your prolific guy, your 300-yard guy. He's not your Burrow. He's not your Mahomes. He is a hybrid Michael Vick, because he can do some things that Michael Vick couldn't do. But Lamar is a stud.
I think a big part of that is Todd Monken and what he's brought there to him. It was a bit of a slow start, and then obviously right now it's looking fantastic. And Todd Monken being the former Georgia offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach, and then before that he was an OC for an NFL team as well, which maybe feels bad about having him walk. I don't know. You tell me.
I don't want to talk about offensive coordinators, running back coaches, or
hey, you got a decent running back coach now. I mean, not that you didn't have one before, but obviously
we had one before. However, when he left the door, he decided to try to fucking throw everybody under the bus on his way out. Made some comments about Kareem Hunt, which is a weird thing to do, because Kareem Hunt is from the area, and I'm tired of talking about fucking assistant coaches. I can tell you that.
All right.
I don't know who our offensive coordinator is going to be. I know why Kellen Moore is in the conversation. I don't like the idea, but Kellen Moore is a guy who has put together really prolific passing offenses that primarily operate out of the shotgun, which is exactly what the offense is going to look like with Deshaun Watson and a recovering Nick Chubb. So that's why he's in the conversation. I just don't like it. There's a lot of options. I don't want. Yeah, I'm. What's the next topic?
Well, now you got me on thinking about a tangent here. Deshaun Watson played with the Texans from 2017 to 2021. I'd say that 2018-19 time frame was probably around when he was maybe his best there. I wonder who the OC was.
2020, I think, was his best year.
Either way, coordinator Tim Kelly, 2019 to 2021. No idea who he is or what he's doing.
Nope. Who was it before that?
George Godsey.
Okay, so
so this is the thing. Whoever George Godsey was the offensive coordinator there from 2015 to 2016, and then from 2017 to 2018, they had no OC.
Fun. I don't know who's going to get that job. I've even lost the track of where we were at where we started at this point, because I'm talking about Stump Mitchell and all of the shit that happened with the exit of our coaches.
Yeah. Well, and Tim Kelly, by the way, still in the league. He left the Texans in 21 as offensive coordinator, was the passing game coordinator for the Titans in 22. And the offensive coordinator for the Titans from 2023 until currently. He still got the position until otherwise replaced.
Which will probably happen considering hirings and
Yeah. Which we were talking about the previous games. We will get into the head coaching carousel that is still underway, but a lot of positions have been picked up.
I think we got caught off guard, sidetracked with the offensive coordinator switch out there in Baltimore, which really, it helped Lamar a lot. He's a stud. Everybody should have put 2 fucking first-round picks out there to try to get him. And then you could have offered him however much money you think the Ravens couldn't fucking match. Miami was a prime candidate to do it, and they didn't.
Lamar Jackson is absolutely the MVP of the league this year, but I'd still say, and I've brought this up before, we want to see more passing capability from a quarterback, which is traditionally a passing position, but he right now is kind of the definition of the modern NFL quarterback that teams are kind of looking for, with Josh Allen and to an extent Patrick Mahomes being the other guys right behind him who have that mobility, capability to run and get, that sort of yardage, but also have an arm to throw.
So I would put Josh Allen in that subject. I don't know if I'd put Pat there. Pat scrambles to throw. He doesn't scramble to run. Typically. Josh and Lamar will scramble to take the fuck off.
And that's the thing is Josh and Lamar are both guys that will go out and be able to get you 100 yards rushing a game. Pat Mahomes will get you 65 yards off of like 6 scrambles and stuff like that, but it's not designed runs. Right. Whereas those two have designed runs. And that's the thing is I still think that we haven't seen a quarterback in recent memory who is able to put both that running game and the passing game together. Lamar has got the running game and down to a T right now. The passing game still, there's potential for getting better. And we still haven't seen a competent receiver core like a top tier receiver.
They're better for that. They are drastically better, but they're not. Zay Flowers was a huge addition for that team.
Yeah, we haven't seen him surrounded, though, by really, really good receiving talent. Zay Flowers, you have the tight end out there. OBJ's not really been a ton of help for him this year, but then it's some Jags that are out there as well.
Yeah, Bateman I was excited about coming out and has not developed the way I thought he would. I was excited, I should say, before he went to the Ravens. Then I hoped he would suck, but
either way, I think that we have not seen the full potential of Lamar, which is kind of scary for some teams out there, probably.
Yeah, because if he continues to develop as a passer, he will be fucking unstoppable.
Mm-hmm. And as far as the Ravens are concerned, they're going to have to build that through the draft this year, probably.
Yeah, they don't have much of anything for cap room.
Yeah, right now the effective cap space that the Ravens are sitting at is $5.2 million, and they actually have a significant amount of players that they need to look at re-signing from this team, unless they are kind of going like, hey, we're going balls out this year to win the Super Bowl, and then we will retool as necessary in the following years and be willing to take a step back. But I guess this is a good little parlay into something before we go on to our next game. I've done breakdowns of every single team in the NFL, from pending free agents to their previous year's record, their effective cap space, draft picks, all sorts of stuff. I'm going to be doing breakdowns on each of these teams by division here in the coming weeks, because we are about to hit a little bit of time before we start really getting into some of the off-season stuff where we have a slowdown in content and whatnot. So I want to still be able to put some stuff out to the people on behalf of the Lineman Lounge. We have a week break here between the conference championships and the Super Bowl, and that's when I'm going to start rolling out a lot of this information. We'll know basically the draft slots of all teams but 2, and those 2 will have a pretty good idea of where they're going to be picking, 31 and 32.
Right.
So that's when I hopefully will start rolling out some of these videos, a little bit more short form content for you, but that way, because the thing that's spurring this for me is that every time I have to think, okay, what can this team do? I have to go on PFF or some of these other sites, right, Spot Track and stuff like that. Look up the contract situations, look up pending free agents and all this stuff. And it's a lot of legwork for me to, when I'm doing especially offseason thought processes and draft analysis and stuff like that of where a team could go. What are they going to do? I don't know unless I go out here and check it all out. Well, now I've got it all kind of compiled. And if you don't want to put in all that legwork, I did it for you. So that way you can kind of jump in, grab one of these videos, see where your team's at, see where other teams that you're talking about are at, and be able to make your own opinions and thoughts from there.
All right. So we had a question come in, and I think he's talking about Patrick Queen.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know what his contract looks like. He's got, what, 1 year? Ooh,
Patrick Queen's a free agent.
Patrick
Queen is a free agent.
Okay, yeah, looks like, I think they had a void year in there. Yeah, I would love Patrick Queen. But for me, I don't know. That would be an interesting linebacker room. Patrick Queen and Joke, like 2 dudes that can cover a shitload of ground, pretty good in pass coverage too. But do we have a guy that's going to be able to, I don't know, man. It's exciting to think about, but 2 guys who are a little slider does worry me a little bit. However, if we can continue to bulk up in the front end of our defensive line, like Siaki Ika, like if he becomes a viable rotational option at the D tackle spot, who can eat up fuckloads of blocks, yeah, it makes a ton of sense having Queen and a Joke out there because they're going to have plenty of lanes. But if I have two guys who are a little slighter and I don't have somebody eating up blocks, that makes me a little more leery about bringing in a Patrick Queen just for my team because we already have a guy that does very similar things in Joke.
Yeah, Patrick Queen's an interesting one. He's only 24 right now. He's still very young. Linebackers sometimes can fall off a cliff earlier around that 6 to 8 year mark, but some of them obviously are carrying on into double digits and still being very productive. I think that's probably a little bit more of his path with the style of football that he plays. He's going to be one of those top free agent targets if the Ravens let him go. Inside linebacker or that linebacker position in general is a little bit more devalued.
He's made so many fucking plays. You'd have to think they're going to resign him.
They should. And the thing is, the position is a little bit more devalued. So if they're going to get a little bit more of a discount of price based off position, that's where it would be. But there are a bunch of teams out there this year with a lot of cap space and that would love to oversign him for his services in order to bolster that next level right behind the defensive line. So look, I struggle to see the Ravens letting him go, but with their cap right now, it could be pretty difficult. They're sitting at $5.2 million in effective cap space before any moves are made this offseason. And again,
and he's coming off a rookie deal, making $2 million. He's getting probably what, 15? Well, off-ball line. Mama, don't let your babies grow up to be running backs or off-ball linebackers.
Some of those guys got like some of the bigger name linebackers last year, like the Bears overpaid Tremaine Edmonds and stuff. I think they got closer to like $18 million a year on some of these guys. So, we'll see. But just looking at my abbreviated list of starter or priority backup type free agents that they've got 15 guys, and I'd say at least 10 of those are ones that they really want to try to keep in-house. And with less than 10 million cap space, that's not going to happen. So some of those guys aren't making it back onto the Ravens. So if you're looking to poach some of those rosters, the Ravens are definitely a good one to look at.
But this is a great year to take players from the rosters.
Yeah. If you want, we can move on to our next game from last week.
So right now, I believe that is a yes. They're playing in a 3-4 in Baltimore. He should be an inside linebacker. I believe. I don't know though. If he's
because
designated as an inside or an outside.
With the 3-4, those outside guys are your pure edge rushers. They're basically de facto defensive linemen that can be kind of put into flat coverage. But yeah,
we saw Jadeveon Clowney line up a couple times as that stand-up outside guy. Most times he came though. That's one nice thing. I like the versatility of the 3-4 because you can maybe drop a dude who's a little more athletic off, like a TJ Watt. Like it makes it fun. Now, obviously, don't ever fucking drop TJ Watt in the coverage. Just send him. But you get a little bit more versatility there than you do with that four down lineman. You get more guys in the back end that you can do things with.
Yeah.
So.
But moving on here, next game that happened on Saturday, Packers 49ers. The 49ers were able to eke out that win towards the end, 24-21. Not the best day for the 49ers. And look, I loved it. We talked right before the show. I was very happy to see Jordan Love throw 2 nasty interceptions there towards the end, especially that last one when he really didn't need to throw that ball. Like they had time. They were able to possibly get in field goal position to push things to overtime. And he just kind of made a errant throw, a forced throw that was absolutely not necessary. And I love it. But that being said, the 49ers is really going to bring into question how are they going to perform this week? Because if you are keeping the game that close versus the Packers, which roster construction wise and the history of your year, you should have throttled them a lot more. It's going to bring in some questions to the 49ers. I'm sure that Joe Rockstar, if you're watching, you were probably shitting fucking bricks through a majority of that game. Because it was difficult to watch as someone who was rooting for the 49ers. I can't imagine being a 49ers fan.
Yeah, that would have been really tough. Because the Packers shouldn't probably have beaten the Cowboys the week before. Obviously, they outplayed them by quite a bit. But all throughout the season, it very much looks like the Cowboys are the better team. They, especially at home, they beat the shit out of the Cowboys. They move on. Okay, now they're going to get their comeuppance. Here we're going to run into the 49ers, and then the 49ers run into a situation that they are terrible playing in. It's fucking raining. Joe Rockstar told us on the last episode, they played terrible in the rain. It rained. They played like shit right up until the very end. Brock Purdy got it done. There was some grandstanding, like, okay, Brock Purdy sucks. He did make plays late. Listen, that was not Brock's best game by any means. And Jordan Love played a great game all the way up until the end of the game. Like, he was not necessarily efficient with the ball, but he had his team in position. They were kicking the shit out of the 49ers, looking at a chance to go to the conference championship game.
I think they, based off of more so coaching decisions, especially in the first half, left at least multiple field goals off the board that they could have gotten. And if you want to bring up Anders Carlson as well, it's funny how you have a quote from the coaching staff saying every time he goes out there, I just hope and pray. Like, going back, this is the brother of Daniel Carlson, who is former Vikings kicker now for the Raiders and is very good. He probably, Anders Carlson probably was able to ride his way a little bit through college, but definitely getting this NFL job based off of the name, thinking like maybe there's some something in the gene pool there. But looking back at his college statistics,
he ever hit 80%? Did he?
No. Like, he was 100% on his kicks from like 0 to 19 yards, but he only had like 2 of those. And then your next bracket after that, it was a significant drop off. Like, you shouldn't have a guy hitting from 20 yards back to, what is it, 29 or something like that yards, where you're having a sub 70% rate. As a college kicker, let alone a professional kicker, a college kicker at Auburn, I believe, as well. So, like, I don't know how this guy had a job. The Packers have already signed guys to futures contracts. Kickers.
Does he kick the fuck out of the ball? Does he slaughter fucking footballs and he just has no idea where the fuck it's going?
I don't know, man. I don't know. But I think it's safe to say that he's probably not going to have a job next year, because if he had hit on some of his misses, this would have at least been a tie game, probably. Yeah. But they left points out there. And some of those are coaching decisions and stuff like that. And I won't say Jordan Love had a good game. Like you said, he had a great game. I think that he had his team efficient. He was playing efficient football, moving the sticks as he had to. Yes, that's all he had to do. Because, and we talked about this before the show as well, he is not a top tier starter. He is still a bottom third starter in the league. He is a game manager, and that's exactly what he did in this game at the beginning of the game. He was a game manager, and they fucking built a great game plan and got out to a lead. And then Jordan made some bonehead fucking decisions, and the 49ers get a dub. And that's when it came down to that last part of the game where they were needing to drive to go score these points to tie the game up. I said to myself, the 49ers are going to win, because Love does not have that gene in him to come back and win. This entire year, when they've had that situation, he's fucked it up. That's been something that the Packers have had for a long time, are guys who just have it in order to get those late last minute drives in order to put themselves ahead. And Love's had several of those opportunities this year, including this game, and he has failed on all of those. We can have conversations about system quarterback and things like that. I don't really care about that. I think that he is just kind of an average game managing quarterback with a average to below average accuracy, but a lot of kind of talented up and coming young receivers that are able to do things for him and make good plays. That coupled with a run game that really was looking good as well. Again, Aaron Jones definitely has come on towards the end of this year.
He's healthy.
Right.
He's beat up all year, man.
We'll see how this goes going forward. But again, one of the things I brought up was that Love's already on his second contract. A lot of people are looking at Love as being basically like a rookie, even though he's not. The guy's on his second contract now already. The biggest benefit of having a young rookie quarter. Look, if Jordan Love, if this was his first year, I'd say things are trending up. You can develop him. You might be able to get better accuracy and stuff
Even
out
if
of
this
him.
is year 2, you're not super concerned. You're like, okay, maybe not where we want to be, but we've seen some progress.
But he helped our team make the playoffs.
Yep.
When you're as far in as he is, you are able to overlook that stuff on a rookie contract. You're not able to overlook that stuff on a second-year contract because you are now paying more of a premium versus that rookie contract where you are getting a deal and you are allowed to have those lumps and bumps because you can fill out the rest of your roster with that extra money and get over some of those shortcomings. They're going to hit a wall here really quick. Now, the Packers do have like the youngest team in the NFL, and they do have a decent crop of guys that look like, hey, they show promise. Can they come through on that promise? That's to be seen, but you can't have that unless you already have that kind of established quarterback that is able to then make up for those deficiencies. And it's on the flip side. If you have a really good roster, and Joe might not like this, but the 49ers have a very good roster. Brock Purdy has looked like a solid quarterback, but he definitely has deficiencies. And you're able to let a lot of those things slide by and not have them be affecting you as much because your roster is so damn good.
Yeah.
But
when your guy is
a worse roster,
got 3 roommates to pay for rent, like it's pretty easy, even though he doesn't have to do that. He's making fucking about $1 million. It's still a lot of goddamn money, but
sure. Yeah, it's just
well, and you brought it up. So that's going to make a shorter leash for Jordan Love. Like, because he's already on that second contract. And that's the thing that I think Packers fans forget is because he's on that second contract, you don't have which is not his fault that he didn't get the opportunity to play. But he's going to have a similar trajectory of what Aaron Rodgers had to be able to make this make sense. To sit out that long.
Yeah. Now,
and we got a call coming in. Our boy, Joe Rockstar.
Press 2.
Oh, Joe! He hung up. Right as I was getting it all hooked up. I don't leave it hooked up because I get an echo. Do you hear the echo now, Evo?
I do hear the echo.
Okay, so that's why it doesn't stay hooked up. Ooh, that was not a good sound. Now do you hear an echo?
No.
Okay, so if he calls back, we'll get it in. There he is. So we'll go ahead and take Joe Rockstar's call now. Joe Rockstar, you are on. Oh, no.
Joe Rockstar.
There we go. Joe Rockstar, you are on with the Lineman Lounge. What's up, big dog?
Get my quarterback's name out your motherfucking mouth.
Okay.
Hey, I noticed you weren't ready for a phone call today.
No, I wasn't ready for a phone call, but I also don't keep it plugged in because I will get an echo.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, because you had to know I was going to call. It's a little less, what's the word, presumptuous when my team is one of the only 4 left to call in. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I heard a little bit about the weapons around him before I had to dial. When they said, Joe's not going to like this, and then bam, I had to do it.
Yeah. So my comment was that Brock Purdy has looked really good, and I think he's a solid quarterback, but he absolutely has a bunch of deficiencies, and a lot of these things are not as prevalent because the 49ers roster around him is so damn good. And you can absolutely get by with that.
I'm going to make the argument. Just I know you're not giving a bunch of hate, but you know that's going around right now. But I'm going to make the argument whenever somebody says he has a lot of weapons around him. What great quarterback didn't have fucking weapons around him? Which one?
Patrick Mahomes right now.
Super Bowls.
Travis Kelce's a great
didn't have good weapons.
One weapon. So Patrick Mahomes right now has one weapon.
All right, there's one. I mean, I understand that you have to have weapons. You're always going to need weapons. We lost Joe.
Something that you turned down, did it turn down his ability to hear us or us to hear him?
I'm not sure what happened. Well, so I had to get rid of the echo because the echo was brutal. It got better, but I'm not sure if Joe could hear us.
Myself heavily.
Yeah, the echo was brutal, so I made the adjustment. Let's see if this works.
Call from.
The Rockstar.
Can we hear him?
I
To
can hear.
accept, press.
Joe Rockstar, can you hear us? Joe, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. I don't know what happened. Must have got cut off.
All right, here we go. I think the echo is okay. Joe, go ahead and say what you're going to say, brother.
Yeah, I don't know what you heard. Okay, I don't want to go into the Brock Purdy thing all day long, but you can bring up point by point, and there's a defense for almost all of them to say that he's a little bit more than just the way people are trying to portray the kid out. Like, and I'm gonna say two things. I don't know if you heard this earlier. Was one, I don't know any quarterback that's ever been a playoff quarterback or winning Super Bowl quarterback that didn't have a bunch of weapons around him. So I'm so tired of hearing that. The other thing is he's 26 games and he's lost 5. When you have somebody who's got a lot of problems and is not a great quarterback, they usually revert to the mean, right? The mean is the average play that you would expect from them. So they're throwing, they go back to throwing picks. They go back to making really bad decisions on a regular basis. What we see here is somebody whose average is actually really good, and his bad games, people are trying to say is the mean. Like, oh, what happened to him last week? And I don't even really consider last week such a bad game. I told you guys it's raining. Yeah. Raining is the 49ers' kryptonite.
I do think that the narrative that was pushed was a little excessive on Brock. It's not like Brock is trash. That narrative is insane. But Brock has flaws. He's always had flaws. And his excellent weapons around him help cover up some of those flaws.
And Joe, can you hear me?
Right, but I think every quarterback is in that boat. Yeah,
agreed.
There's nobody that you could say doesn't have any flaws, right. And that the rest of it. In fact, that's the problem with this whole analysis. Is this is the ultimate in team sports. There are so many variables that are going on in a football game. Considering there's 11 players on one side of the field, there's 11 on the other side, and every little interaction with each of them at any given time can determine whether a play is successful or not, and affect every player on the field. The quarterback's just the one that's getting highlighted because he's got the ball in his hand,
Yeah. And look,
I just think it's
that Brock Purdy is not a good quarterback. Like I would take Brock Purdy on my team. It's not saying that at all. I'm just saying there's a difference between a Brock Purdy and a Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, stuff like that. At this point in their career, it's not saying he's a bad quarterback. It's just saying that he's not the type of guy that is elevating the guys around him as much as the guys around him are helping to elevate him a little bit more. And that's not a bad thing.
Well, I would argue that when Josh Johnson goes in the playoffs, you can see that there's an elevation difference there.
But there's a difference between a starter
or when
as well.
Sam Darnold comes in, there's a difference in elevation there.
Yeah, but that's because Brock Purdy is head and shoulders above both of those guys. I'm not saying that he's not an NFL starting quarterback. I think he's with a worse roster. I still think he's probably a top 15 quarterback. But we're not talking about the elites here. I think we're on the same page on a lot of this. Where I think that the narrative that was pushed around about Brock Purdy in general and last week and stuff is way overblown. But I'm not calling Brock Purdy the next Steve Young, Joe Montana there for the 49ers. I think that he is got that potential to him for sure, but I'm not there yet. And I'm not putting him up there as a top 5 quarterback in the league either, but I think that he's a very good quarterback. Most teams would be happy to have his sort of performance and play. It's just he definitely makes that offense work, but I wouldn't necessarily say that he is like elevating the guys around him necessarily. Those guys would be good with another quarterback that is. I think that Jordan Love on that team would look better than Jordan Love on the Packers.
Yeah, I agree. It is definitely a team sport.
And I think that Brock Purdy on the Packers would look worse than Brock Purdy on the 49ers. It's like the team is just better. It's not saying that Brock Purdy's a bad quarterback, and I still think that Packer team, based on the trajectory that they had, if Brock Purdy was their quarterback, would have been in roughly the same position that they were this year. Like they could have made the playoffs. But it's not that Brock Purdy's a bad quarterback by any means. I said I would love to have him on my especially at that cap number.
I get it, Evo. It really, so this really isn't even directed at you. It's just after you get a week long of hearing this crap from other people, in the first place that you have a conversation about it is on your show. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no,
It's okay.
Because I think all three of us,
you know what I mean?
The narrative being pushed around is garbage.
Yeah, I mean, he's a good quarterback.
I don't even like I don't like these conversations about any quarterback because I would say objectively, Lamar is not a good quarterback. He's a really good running back that can throw the ball.
No, I think.
But
this year
it's results based, right?
I've been.
Yeah, he's doing a little bit better on the throwing this year.
I felt the same as you up until this year. This year is the one where, again, it's a year of having to eat crow for me a little bit on things. More so with the Ravens and Cardinals to some extent, or not Ravens, the Rams and Cardinals to some extent. But Lamar, I was one saying like, hey, maybe they should consider keeping Huntley over Lamar because of the cost, and you're going to get at least some average quarterback production, and you can try to reset there. Because I didn't like him as a passer. I still think that he's gotten, I don't know if you heard us talking earlier, I think he's still got a lot of room to improve as a passer, but he has definitely taken steps forward this year. And so I'll give him credit there completely. I think that he's a much better passer this year, and part of that is the people around him.
I would say
coaches and players.
Yeah.
Strictly watching tape without knowing the entire scheme and design and what reads are what. If you're watching these two quarterbacks side by side in all their pass game, I think you're going to find Brock Purdy's better than Lamar. But if it's what Lamar brings to the table outside of that, when things break down, or if he can't make a good read, at least he's got his athleticism to save him.
Yeah. See, and that's something that
kind of
is so hard to quantify because Lamar is going to make plays that other motherfuckers just cannot make, like not possible to make. So that extra quality is so hard to find. And if you want anybody to have that quality, it's your starting quarterback.
Yeah. I'd like him to have both qualities. That's that's a unicorn.
Agreed. I'd like
off the quarterback side of this, though, I don't want to. It is a team, and I think the team is pretty good. If you were going to ask me what our weakest spot is, obviously rain is our kryptonite. Brock Purdy or not, you go back to Jimmy Garoppolo or whoever. We play in the rain, we suck. We just always suck. I don't know why that is. I don't know why it seems to affect Niners. The other teams getting rained on too, but it just seems to hurt us more.
You guys are used to that Southern California weather.
I don't know if that's just because where they play or bad coaching, bad preparation. But I don't think there's any rain in the forecast this weekend.
I'm not. I just looked it up just to be sure. It's 69, partly cloudy.
69.
69.
Yeah. There we go. All right, Joe. Well,
sounds like a winning number.
we got to get Joe's prediction real quick, even though we're not going over his game yet.
Go ahead. Give me your prediction, Joe.
I'm sorry. I thought you guys were getting ready to talk about it. I'm just going to give you the prediction. So I think the Lions got a really good offense. I think their defense is going to be suspect in the passing game. I think now that Debo's back, that's even worse for them. I'm obviously predicting a 49er win. I don't think it's going to probably be a blowout, but I do think that even Mr. Irrelevant here can keep us in it. And we can go blow for blow scoring. It's going to be up to what our defense is able to do against, Reynolds, Williams, and Amon-Ra, and what's 87, Laporta. That's going to be a big day. But they've got some injuries on the line in Detroit, and so I think that's going to be a big boon for us, maybe putting some pressure on Goff and being able to take away some of that weapon. So I think we're going to win. I don't know about a blowout, but I think for sure we're going to win.
All right. Well,
if you're looking at the spread, I would say 7 points ain't bad. We probably can do that. I'll take the spread.
You take them to cover? All right. Bullish on your guys. All right. Can't blame you there. But Joe, thanks, buddy. We appreciate it.
That's 7, not 7.5.
Yeah, 7. Not the no hook.
That's
Got
7.
it.
Yeah. All right.
All
right, guys.
Go ahead.
He broke up. I think he was just saying his.
Yeah, his little thing. Yeah.
All right. Love you, Joe.
Bye, Joe. Love you. Yeah.
All right.
So let's get rid of the echo in my ear now. All right. Yeah. So we were talking about the
49ers Packers game, which
49ers Packers game.
Yeah,
Belabored.
we probably beat this one to death. I'm happy the 49ers won. It makes me question a little bit, like, hey, if this game was as close, is the 49ers, like, what is their future for the rest of the season hold? Because I was very upset during that game. Like, as much as I've enjoyed watching the 49ers kick the shit out of teams like the Packers that I want them to kick the shit out of, the play on that game, and yes, the rain obviously is a factor. Joe's attesting to that big time. He's got a better historical knowledge of that. But I was very upset at the 49ers, and it's left a sour taste in my mouth on them a little bit. But yeah, I'm glad they won. Glad the Packers are out and have this draft pick. Sunday's games, we had the Bucks and the Lions. The Lions were able to pull out that win at home, 31-23. It was definitely a back and forth match, duking it out.
This was a good game.
Yeah, it ended up coming down kind of towards the end there, where there was a timeout that wasn't called and things like that.
Yeah, so I saw the picture. Was there did they actually have a timeout left? Could have got the ball back for 30 seconds. Is that real?
Yes, potentially. And there was some conversations on some shows that I watched where the opportunity of you getting the ball back, it probably would have been less than 30 seconds that they had, I believe.
Yeah, but if you can get the fucking ball back, you get the goddamn ball back. You're in the playoffs. This is win or go home.
Right. And what was postulated was that maybe there was a little bit of gamesmanship of some sort being played, a potential. So you say what you want about Baker or whatever, but maybe internally the team's like, hey, our analytic possibilities of if we get the ball back with 12 seconds of us getting a play that scores are like 0.2% or something like that. But and it's going to be tough for me to describe this without actually having all the numbers sitting here in front of me. Sometimes teams will take a knee and just assume that the game is over. Like if the team doesn't call a timeout type thing, then they know that the other team is basically conceding.
Right.
And there's a thought that maybe Todd Bowles and the Bucks were hoping to bait them into that, where it's like, hey, we're going to take a knee with, at 39 seconds on the play clock. And then when we don't call a timeout, then they're going to come up and they're going to kneel again at 20 seconds on the play clock because they know that we've conceded it. And then we're going to call our timeout. Now they have got to punt it. And now we're actually going to have more time on the clock to run a play. There's that thought. It hasn't been done
Yeah, but
before.
like after a couple of fucking seconds, you gotta be like, okay, this is not working the way we hoped. Time out, right? Like,
yeah, you would think. And at the end of the day, I think that that's probably a very long shot that's what was going on. But there is a potential for it. It might actually been on New Heights where Travis Kelce was saying that's something that we've actually discussed as something that we can watch for, but typically it's going to be something that you'll see in the regular season, not the postseason, because obviously it's one and done, you're out. But yeah, I don't put a lot of credibility in that, but that's something that to watch for, I guess. It hasn't been done in the league, but teams are aware of that potentiality being there, and
this doesn't make sense to me. Like Okay, so that's going to get us into a topic about analytics because there's another analytical decision that was made in this game that I thought was a really good idea. However, people on the internet were like, why the fuck would you go for 2 points when you can kick the extra point and be down by 7? Because that gives you a higher chance to win. Like, going for 2 in that situation is the right decision, especially if you get it. Like, if you miss it, it's bad no matter what. If you get it, only one of those 2 things, an extra point or the 2-point conversion, puts you in a position to win the game. So that's why you do it in that situation. You take the 2 points there, so that way the next time you kick, the next way you score again, because you got to score again, all of it hinges on that second part of fucking getting back out there and getting another score. You actually win the game with an extra point at a higher percentage, because those are hitting at 95%. The explanation that we got on TV was fucking wrong. It didn't make any goddamn sense. But the reason you do it is because when you're at that position, The only thing that you can do to improve your chances of winning is going for 2 right there without ruining your chances of winning. Because if you do it at that second touchdown, it is a 50-50 shot. It is a win or a lose. If you do it at down 14, if you don't get it, you can still go for it again and have a chance to continue to play. That's why it happens when you're down 14 to make it to go down to 6. That's the right explanation. If you were listening, I don't even remember. Was it not Joe Buck? I don't remember who the fuck made Collinsworth. That was what he said was wrong. What I'm saying is more accurate, the layman's terms. I actually wrote a paper on this fucking last semester. So that's why that happens.
Yeah. As far as the rest of the game, though, I mean, it was a tight game. It was a good game to watch. It was interesting. I never saw the Bucs as being a playoff team, let alone a team getting to the divisional series, and I definitely didn't see them possibly having a shot at the NFC Championship game. So the fact that they were sticking through it definitely made it more interesting. I definitely wanted the Lions to. There's been a lot of talks about Minnesota sports fans, Minnesota podcasts, and stuff like that. About whether or not you are allowed to want the Lions to win in this situation, because the Vikings.
Oh yeah, you guys are NFC North,
right? So the Vikings not having had a Super Bowl victory, and not having been to a Super Bowl in quite some time. There's a big contingent of Vikings fans that are like, you have to be rooting against the Lions no matter how good the story is, because if they fucking get to a Super Bowl or win one before us, like, we're gonna.
You're the last one.
Yeah.
Okay, so I understand this vitriol because it's going on right now between Browns and Bengals fans, like at an extreme level.
Yeah, for me, I don't care because I don't have a hatred towards the Lions, even if they are NFC North opponents. They have just been essentially non-factors for so many years that it doesn't bother me. Like, if they were to go and win the Super Bowl, I'll be sad because my team didn't do it, but only sad that my team didn't get a Super Bowl, not that they got it before my team did. Like that, and I've already come to terms with that. My team's not winning the Super Bowl this year, so I'm not like any more hurt. So that's why I have generally been rooting for the Lions in this scenario. Do I think that they're making it to the Super Bowl? I don't know. We'll find out here in a little bit. But like, I'm happy for the way that team is constructed, the way their GM has worked, the head coach, all that stuff. So I'm glad that they won this game.
There was a lot of eating crow going on this week on fucking Twitter when it revolves around the Lions. That their draft picks were stupid. They didn't make any goddamn sense taking Laporta and Gibbs, who both fucking had great games. And the fact that they hired a coach a couple years ago who's not really a coach. He doesn't have a good scheme, all that shit. No, but what they did was they hired a motivator. Like, people were eating crow hard on the fucking internet because this Lions team is exciting. They're fun to watch. Dude, I love Dan Campbell. I love the coach that Dan Campbell is, and that we're getting more of those guys that were former players. They're not necessarily scheme guys, but they are fucking leaders of men. They're not rah-rah guys, but they get you ready to go. Your position coaches are going to teach you, specific mechanics or techniques, and they'll integrate all of that stuff into the system. And I hire good people, and I'll fucking motivate you. Like, there are a lot of guys that could make their careers much longer if they would let go of the reins a little bit, and instead of making it has to be my system, it has to be this way, and let the guys that you hired do their fucking jobs. So I love Dan Campbell for that, and I'm pumped for this team.
Yeah, I'm excited for him. Happy that they won. I didn't want to see the Buccaneers go to the NFC Championship game.
Yeah, because it wouldn't have been a good game. I would have been excited for Baker, but Baker did the thing that Baker always does late in games, man. Like, makes a rushed, poor decision. Like, you can't double clutch and throw over the middle. He did it a lot here in Cleveland. Like, that's what ended the game. And not in Tampa, wherever the fuck they were playing, in Detroit. So I would have been happy for him, but Baker is a guy who's going to be incredibly fucking volatile at the quarterback spot.
Yeah,
Seems like somebody else I know who plays in Cleveland.
The good news though is, I mean, oh, fuck, excuse me. The good news for
Bless
Baker
you.
is that he's probably played himself into a nice little contract here.
30. Well, there were reports of 40 to 45, which in my opinion is fucking insane. It's way too much money
I
for
don't
Baker
think that's going to
Mayfield.
happen.
30 to 35 he could do. He should be very grateful for.
I think 30 is the top end. I think he's going to get an extremely similar contract to what Geno Smith got.
See, I was thinking 3-year, 100 million, 60 guaranteed.
That's a lot to me. For like that, it's a lot to me for a team that doesn't have a exorbitant.
I'm not disagreeing that is a lot of money to pay for Baker Mayfield level fucking production, but that's where the market's probably at for him right now after taking the Bucs to the playoffs and winning a playoff game.
Yeah, potentially. The question for me is he going to stay there or be willing to stay there with the Bucs if they try to lowball him at all? Because his OC is now gone, and he saw really good production with that offensive coordinator, and it's shown that he has to be in a good spot with a good offensive coordinator that he jives with in order to get that good production. I mean, it didn't work out in certain places, and it has worked better in other places. So
if they hire Alex Van Pelt, they will probably be retaining Baker Mayfield. Alex Van Pelt was the OC here in Cleveland. He was let go. He did not bash the entire organization on his way out. Appreciate that. So he's available to be hired as an offensive coordinator. He knows Baker. They've had some success. That is a complete possibility. So if you see that move from the Buccaneers, more than likely a contract for Baker Mayfield is coming right behind it.
Yeah. All righty. We'll check in real quick with our last game here from last weekend, the Chiefs and Bills. That was a fun game to watch too. Obviously, we already spoke about the T Swift Kelsey stuff.
Hell yeah.
Lots of snowballs being thrown. Those
Good.
Bills fans at the end of the game really going after the Chiefs too. And this is where you are also going to hear the narratives of, the refs are fixing things and stuff like that a lot more because there's a lot of vitriol around that.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I feel bad for the Bills and Bills fans, but really it seemed like their roster, just especially on the defensive side, was so depleted.
Yeah, they've been hurt all year. It's multiple years in a row they've been hurt. Josh Allen played his fucking heart out. He played hero ball, and they were right there in it.
Yeah,
and then
they were one Stephon Diggs catch away, really, from that dropped ball sucks.
Oh, dude, and he's had a tough year. Like he has had a lot of targets, and not a lot of catches.
Yeah, it's tough, and that's again, I'll get into it when I do my off-season stuff, but could he move? Like, this is the first year that we've heard outward from Stephon Diggs in an offseason where he's like, I want to stick with this team. I want to go forward with whatever my role is. Mm-hmm. Normally it is bitch, complain, moan, gripe, and cry.
Yeah.
And so that's a little bit different, which is interesting. But then again, with the contract that he has, he
didn't play his best year, and he's got a lot of money on the table. Of course he wants to come back.
So it'll be interesting to see what they end up doing with him. If he's gone, Gabe Davis is also a free agent. But if
Michael Pittman
were to move on from him, like
that's who you go to try to get, assuming that the Colts allow him to get to free agency.
Then I'm not sure that they do. But that's the thing is you already have we're seeing this with basically three of these top teams, the Chiefs, the Bills, and the Ravens. Don't have very good receiving cores, with the Ravens probably having the best one right now.
Yeah.
I mean, a close second is the Bills because they have Diggs and they have Kincaid and Knox. Gabe Davis, I think, is a little bit more of a wash because he's just been on a slow downhill decline the past 2 years. But either way, these teams are doing it without the receivers. What could they do with the receivers is always the question. And we've seen that with Patrick Mahomes. We've seen when he has the receivers, what can happen. We've seen it from Josh Allen to an extent when Diggs is in his prime and Gabe Davis is way outperforming what was expected. Like, you see some pretty damn cool stuff. For me, the Bills, I feel bad for Josh. Like, is he becoming one of those quarterbacks that just cannot get over the hump? And I don't think it's him. I think it's
he played great, dude. Like, he never had a chance. Well, he got out there. He got us him in the position to tie the game. Would you like to see a touchdown there? Yeah, obviously, because you probably win that game. Kicking in those conditions was always going to be tough. I feel bad for Bass. I feel bad for Bills fans because wide right again is, I don't know how many times more times they can fucking hear wide right.
I'm not popping that comment up.
Yeah, that's not coming up here.
The fuck is this, a donation show?
Yeah.
Sorry,
Ray,
Ray Cameron.
This ain't UNICEF, dog.
I'll let you borrow $500 if I can borrow $600 at the same time.
Yeah,
that's the only way I do it.
That's good though. I like that.
Yeah. But yeah, so heartbreaker for the Bills. That sucks. They're going to be looking at a lot of retooling, especially on that defensive side. Some veteran contracts like a Von Miller really needs to go.
Yeah, I thought that was going to be a really good acquisition for him, but the injuries just ruined that. Yeah,
that was about it. All right, but that kind of takes us into this weekend's games where we can get into that bread and butter. So first off, we have the Chiefs and the Ravens tomorrow.
Before we do that, brother, let me pop this up real quick. Just what we got last week. Both of us still rocking that hardcore 50-50, that half chub, if you will. We need to get both these games right this week, though. So let's make that happen.
Or we could go 50-50 again, I guess.
Or we could just go 50-50.
But yeah, so we got the Chiefs and Ravens being played in Baltimore, AFC Championship. The spread is Baltimore -4 points, over under of 44.5. Weather looks to be good, roughly around 49, 50 degrees, so not that cold. Looking at the injury report, the Chiefs have a decent amount of guys who are hurt here. We got Derek Nadi at defensive tackle, who's out for the game. Sky Moore on IR, out for the game. Trey Smith, guard, was a full participant. Mike Edwards is at safety, is questionable. Pacheco is questionable, but I believe that he is expected to play. Big one, though, for them. Joe Thuney at guard, out with pectoral injury. Not going to be playing. That's going to definitely hurt their offensive line. Willie Gay is questionable with a neck, did not practice on Friday. You also have Prince Tego Winogo out, now put on IR for the rest of the year. And limited participant Kadarius Toney is out, and that is probably a good thing for them. On the flip side, though, Baltimore Ravens, Mark Andrews has been a full participant in practice all week. I believe he's expected to play. Marlon Humphreys is questionable, but was a full participant on Friday, expected to play. And that's about it for the people that you would really care about whether or not they're going to be playing on that team or not. So Ravens coming into this much healthier than the Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs were able to get that win last week, but they're going up against this Ravens team that has really been fucking rocking. They're playing at home again. They're healthier. And this is probably one of the best defenses that the Chiefs will have been going up against.
Yeah.
So
with missing linemen, wide receivers having drops. You brought up I'm sorry.
Reading comments here.
Yeah, I'm reading comments. This Chiefs offense is going to have a really, really hard time. This is going to be one of the best defenses they played. The blitz packages is going to look nasty. I don't remember what I was saying because I got confused with the comments, but
I'll say this. All right.
Yeah, go ahead.
Last week, we saw a pretty damn good game from Travis Kelce. He had 2 touchdowns. One of them was rushing, but also receiving. You're going up against, again, a Bills defense that was severely depleted, especially at linebacker and safety, which is those are the guys that are generally going to be covering a Kelce, right? You're not having that this week. They brought A.J. Klein essentially out of retirement last week to play for the Bills. You're not having this week. This week. You have, now I'm forgetting the name of the safety.
For sure, Patrick Queen is going to Kyle Hamilton and Patrick Queen.
And Roquan Smith. You've got 3 guys that are pretty solid in coverage. Pretty effective. They're fast. They're going to be able to lock down Kelce. And then after that, you've got Rashee Rice as a receiving option and not a ton else that is really standing out. Rashee Rice still looking pretty good going into the postseason here. It's going to be really tough for that Chiefs offense to get rolling, in my opinion, in Baltimore. Like, the question is, can the Ravens go up against that Chiefs defense, and I think that they probably can. The Chiefs defense is good, but it's just a really weird dynamic that the Ravens are able to put out there with their running attack and the mobility of Jackson. Again, this game is the Ravens minus 4 points over under a 44.5. I'm taking Baltimore in this game. I think that they probably could win by those 4 points, being that it's a playoff game of the Chiefs, and that's just kind of a wild card with it. I'm just taking the Ravens money line. I'm expecting the Ravens to make it to the Super Bowl this year. And yeah, I think that I just don't know how the Chiefs are going to be able to put up much offense.
Yeah, I don't either. So I remember I was going to ask you, would you rather have Kadarius Toney or Mecole Hardman on the field if you're Pat Mahomes?
Mecole.
Think so? Even after last week?
Yep. I don't want Kadarius Toney to play football anymore if I'm Patrick Mahomes. I think that he's a waste of money and draft capital that you had to give up to trade.
Yeah. The comment section is going crazy right now.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah, I'm going Baltimore as well, man. They're going to be able to move the ball in a lot of different ways. They're good on the run. Passing game has been much better for Lamar. And the offensive line for the Chiefs is depleted. They're going to get their asses kicked, I think. I am not going to drop the points, though. I'm just going to take Baltimore money line as well with you. I think that they probably cover, though.
Probably, yeah.
But is that a Zin?
All right.
Get them in while you can, Evo, because they're going to get banned.
What? Oh.
The Zins.
I don't do Zin, baby. I'm about that rogue. I need the big pouch.
Got it.
Yeah. Dumb. Have you seen? This is probably a comment or topic. The Trump fake AI talking about Zins.
No, I have not. I'll check it out. But the fake AI thing is
it's
ridiculous.
him talking about. I'll make sure you get him all the time.
I don't know. Yeah, I can't do the accent, but
it's great. All right, next game. Lions 49ers out in Santa Clara. The line is San Francisco -7. Joe is dropping that 7 points. Over under a 51.5 points. Expected to be a lot of offense in this game. 49ers Debo is going to play, and he's saying he's not going to nurse anything. Like he's going all out. He's not worried about protecting himself because he wants to get to the Super Bowl. And I get it. You should.
Yep. And he's looking to crack block the shit out of CJGJ.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'll go through these injuries here again. So Oren Burks, linebacker for the 49ers, is questionable with a shoulder injury. He was a limited participant in practice. Debo, again, expected to play according to Shanahan. Trent Williams didn't participate some this week. I fully expect him to play.
He'll go, yeah.
Dre Greenlaw, full participant in practice. And Nick Bosa got some rest. Lions, on the other hand, Khalif Raymond is out with a knee injury. He's actually been a very quiet, super solid receiving option for them this year, and I think that's going to hurt a lot. Khalif Raymond being a free agent next year as well, who I think he's going to get a little bit.
He made himself some money.
Yeah, he's looked like a very solid option out there for the Lions. I kind of expect them to do whatever they need to retain him. Guard Jonah Jackson is out for the Lions as well. Chase Lucas, a cornerback, is questionable but had not participated in practices. Frank Ragnow, he's a fucking dog, dude. He was going through it. He's got ankle injuries, toe injuries, all sorts of fucking injuries. Didn't participate in practice this week. His status is unknown. I guarantee Frank Ragnow, the Minnesota man, is going out there. James Houston at linebacker, status is unknown, but he was a full participant in practice. I expect him to play. Josh Reynolds also looking real good. Maybe it was Josh Reynolds that is the one that's a free agent this year. Either way, he's been real fucking good too. 40 receptions, 608 yards, and 5 touchdowns this year. He's got a rib injury. He was a limited participant in practice. And Sam Laporta, that dude's playing. He didn't practice, but he's playing. Looked real good last week as well. So Lions a lot more injured. And then I need to bring up this narrative. Jared Goff does not play good on grass. Like his stats significantly decrease.
Yeah, he's an indoor quarterback.
Yeah. Also, there's been, talks of Goff is not good under pressure, and he's shucked some of those concerns.
I mean, he lit up the league this year. He's top 5 in yards and touchdowns. I don't know why we're still having that conversation.
Yeah, the 49ers are going to probably pressure the shit out of them, and having some of those receiving options be a little bit hurt. Like, I fully expect the Lions to put up points, and I fully expect the 49ers to put up points. But with Debo being in there, a big part of that 49ers slump earlier in the year was Trent Williams and Debo being out, and Debo plays a big part in that. Debo being in there, that's big for him. Now, hopefully he doesn't get hurt and go out again real early in the game, but I'm just hoping for a really fun matchup here. I'm taking the Lions plus the points. I think the 49ers win. But I think that this is going to be a good game. I think it's going to be close down to the wire again.
Lions +7. I can't do it, man. I'm gonna ride with Joe. I'm just gonna take the money line. Well, Joe is gonna drop fucking 7 points. I'm not doing that. That's crazy. This Lions team is good. They can play. We'll see how they do out in Santa Clara. But if the weather's not terrible, I expect Goff to be able to play decent. He's a Southern California kid. That's where he came from. Like, that's not new to him playing in that environment. So I think he can keep it close. They'll score, but the Niners are the better team. They'll come out on top. And what I expect to be a close-ish game, probably 4-5 points.
That's
I
why
would
I'm
consider dropping
taking
points.
That's why I'm taking the points here. I fully expect the 49ers to win this one. I fully expect the Ravens to win that game. I'm expecting that Ravens 49ers Super Bowl here in 2 weeks.
Yeah, well, I mean, they put out the graphic. They gotta stop giving out such good hints. Like, I love that narrative. The whole scripted narrative is still fun.
Yeah, to an extent. Hey, we're getting into some QAnon shit sometimes.
Well, until you get people that actually believe it's scripted and they're trying to say that their team lost because it's scripted, those people are crazy. But
it's happening more and more.
But the narrative that it exists and we can joke about it, I enjoy that portion. And laughing at the people that think that the NFL is actually scripted to screw their team. Yeah. Laughing at those people is also fun. I enjoy that. Mm-hmm. I'm a prick sometimes. So,
all right. Well, that's a wrap up of our games that happen tomorrow.
Hell yeah.
Now, did you want to get into those brackets?
Yeah. So listen, because we're getting a little long on time here, so I'm not going to break down every single one of these brackets, but I will say this: if you submitted a bracket into our bracket challenge, you are still in the hunt. Nobody has pulled away. Nobody is mathematically eliminated. Our highest score right now is 11 points. Our lowest is 7. Everybody is still eligible to win. It will just depend on what happens this weekend and if you pick the right fucking teams. But nobody is mathematically eliminated at this point. So keep tuning in. We'll update again. But I know we wanted to talk a little bit about coaches before we get the hell out of here.
Yeah, for sure. So we did have some head coach hirings this week. Right now, of the 8 teams that had openings, only 2 are left. Biggest one being Jim Harbaugh signing with the LA Chargers. I did see a report today that the NFL could possibly look at suspending him, though, because of the stuff that happened in college. How the fuck can you do that? I don't think that's going to happen.
So it can happen because the NFL has done it before, back with Jim Tressel and Terrell Pryor. It's insane that there is that kind of an agreement, but there is precedent for it to happen.
Yeah, I don't know how the NFL does that, though, because there's still so much wishy-washy shit with the investigation and everything.
Yeah, they don't fucking know what's going on. Like, no sanction, nothing has gone on yet. So
yeah. So I think that's silly. But other than that, obviously Rob Mayo was hired by the Patriots. We have Dave Canales coming over from the Buccaneers to be the new head coach of the Carolina Panthers. Real interesting because, we've talked about this. Why the fuck would you go to the Panthers? I can tell you why. You get a 6-year deal. It's probably got a lot of fucking money in there, and it's probably got all sorts of cool buyout shit where it's like, hey, if you get fired after a year, oh, well, I'm still getting a fucking bag. And for that, I can respect it.
Yeah, he's getting the Cliff Kingsbury special, but he's getting it fucking supersized.
Yeah. He directly reports to David Tepper, which is always fun. They also promoted Dan Morgan, former linebacker for the Panthers, who really just accelerated his career after he got out of the league. He went from being like a assistant scout to assistant GM, now to the GM within like a couple year time period, which is a crazy ascension. Whether or not he's any good at the job, I don't know. Like, it feels like the Panthers probably brought him into their system because he was a player on their system, and then he might have been getting accelerated up to the top because he's like a name that people knows and they want hires that people can get behind. But as far as his actual production, I don't have a good idea if Dan Morgan has had good production as far as being a GM type candidate. We'll see. Tennessee Titans.
I like the Canales hire though, just because he has done a good job of really kind of helping young quarterbacks or struggling quarterbacks. He just got Baker Mayfield to play one of the best years of his fucking career.
I believe he did that up. I don't know if Waldron
Geno
was the
Smith.
OC, but no, he did it with Geno.
Yeah, he got it with Geno too. So that's a good thing for Bryce Young.
Yeah. I mean, it's putting Bryce Young in a better position to be successful. Whether or not he will be, that's
still remains.
Whether or not
to be
it'll make
seen.
a difference, we'll see. Tennessee Titans, they go out and get Brian Callahan, Cincinnati Bengals former offensive coordinator. I like Bryce Callahan as well. He seems like a real down-to-earth guy. Cool hire for them. And I don't want to say, this is really taking a leap, but Vrabel seems like kind of that hard-nosed, down-to-earth guy with defensive mindset and just like your blue-collar working class type of guy. I get the same kind of vibes from Callahan as well, just more a little bit offensive minded. So it seems like they're kind of sticking with that same sort of mojo. It's just going more of an offensive direction there with Callahan. I think that's a good hire for them as well, and it should be good for Levis. Raheem Morris goes out to the Falcons, and he was an interim there for the Falcons as well, I believe, after Quinn was fired. Raheem Morris, I really liked as a head coach candidate for my Vikings back in the day, and I'm a fan of Raheem Morris. Like what he's done with the defenses out there in LA, what he even did, with the Buccaneers when he was the head coach with the Buccaneers. That was Buccaneers teams that had fucking Josh what's his nuts at quarterback that was out of the league the year after. Josh Freeman. He didn't have a lot to work with there, and he still got into the playoffs one of the years. He's coached both offense and defense, so he's got a good idea of both sides of the ball. And the outpouring of support for him from other players has been, great. Good hire for the Falcons. But
I love the hire, but I question the fit with the Falcons.
Why?
Because Raheem Morris is a very, very good coach, but he's a very defensive-minded coach. I understand he's coached on the offensive side of the ball, but he's not bringing in a scheme. I think this could be a fantastic hire. It depends on who he brings in to be his OC, because he's not calling plays. He's not going to be that guy that is super schematic on the offensive side of the ball, and there are a ton of very young offensive weapons on this team who have been misutilized. So you bring in a defensive guy. I think he's a great fucking coach. But if I have that many young offensive guys who don't know what the fuck their role is because they've been mismanaged, it would be a little easier for me as a fan to be like, man, I wish we'd have had an offensive head coach come in, even though I really like Raheem Morris as a coach.
So this is the thing is that
things have happened in the past with that organization. It
sounds like it's almost a done deal for the Rams quarterbacks coach and passing game coordinator Zach Robinson to come over as well. Okay. And he's been a prime candidate as an OC even through last cycle, 2 cycles ago. Zach Robinson was getting looked at, and I'm cool with that.
That is great.
I trust guys coming out of that McVay scheme. So you're getting 2 of the top assistant coaches there in LA to come out there, and these LA coaches minus Brandon Staley have been relatively successful. That McVay tree is looking really strong right now, so getting both of those guys out there, it's exciting to me. And like I said, Raheem Morris, he coached the offensive side of the ball with the Falcons before, specifically wide receivers, and they actually had pretty solid production out there with him. I'm super happy. I think it's a good fit. The storyline around this is Belichick, right? So Belichick looked to almost be a lock there. And it sounds like Rich McKay and some of the other members of the front office staff within Atlanta said, no, we don't want this. Arthur Blank wanted Belichick, but Belichick wanted a lot more control than they wanted to give up because it was going to start taking over some of those other people's jobs.
Yeah.
And that's why they ended up going in a different direction. Belichick has no other interviews or anything like that scheduled set up at this point. So
he's not coaching this year, probably.
Yeah, I was going to say, are we looking at a year without Belichick in the league?
Probably. And if that happens, I'm not sure we see him back in the league.
That's the problem, is that he's that 15 wins away from the record, right? Mm-hmm. If Belichick's no spring chicken, he's pretty fucking old.
He's going to have to coach for 2 more years to break the record. And if he doesn't get an opportunity this year, he might get aged out if he's going to be able to continue to coach.
And that's the problem. And I had brought up this reckless speculation before about Saban and Belichick possibly being a duo at some point in some fashion again here in the future. I don't know if Saban's going to be coming to the NFL this year anymore.
So many guys have been hired.
So you could see this happen next year, a Saban-Belichick reunion of some sorts at some location, because there's absolutely going to be head coach vacancies. I mean, this is an insane amount of head coach vacancies that we've had this year. Have you heard the offensive coordinator stat?
No.
Every team in the NFL has changed their offensive coordinator since 2022.
Jesus Christ. I did not. What?
Yeah. Insane, right?
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah. So that says a lot about offenses in general and coaching changes and things like that. We can get into that in a completely different time. The point being is that, look, Belichick, this is the kind of the sad thing with it. All right. Is he one of the best coaches of all time? Absolutely. He also had one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, arguably the greatest. Yes. That's going to help a lot. His roster control and structure of his roster over the past several years, especially since Brady is gone, have been pretty terrible. Mm-hmm. I think Belichick walks into a lot of rooms and people assume he gets to go in there and say, I'm Bill Belichick. I brought championship upon championship to New England. Let me do that for you. And that is not an interview. And with Arthur Blank, it might not have been an interview. Arthur Blank wanted him. Mm-hmm. But if he gets into a situation at all where they say, hey, what's your plan for your other coaches that you bring in? Well, I've got a guy named McDaniel,
Matt Patricia,
and a Matt Patricia, and all these failed coaches who have since also failed, like not just as head coaches, but then they're failing as coordinators again. Mm-hmm. Even some of them with Bill. Like, it's not a easy sell at that point if you're just looking at it from that perspective of like, hey, this is the crew I'm bringing in. We're running it back. I don't know if that's going to work anymore. So him sitting out a year, he's got to look to retool like his system, his coaching staffs, things like that. And I think finding a way to couple that with Saban and Saban being able to bring some of the guys from the collegiate game and stuff, a little bit more fresh blood and stuff like that, that's what could rejuvenate him. And it wasn't going to happen this year.
You'll be looking at a Bill O'Brien leaving Ohio State as the offensive coordinator and going to be an offensive coordinator again in the NFL before he gets another head coaching job and things like that. It's possible, but honestly, if he doesn't coach this year, I think we've seen the last of Bill.
It could very well be the case.
I know the record means a lot to him, or that's at least the way it seems. But I don't know if he's going to get there if he doesn't coach this year.
Yeah.
So
be interesting. But that basically leaves us with 2 open positions, the Seattle Seahawks and the Washington Commanders. A lot of people believe that Ben Johnson has that Commanders job kind of locked down, but I'm not so sure. You still have Slowick out there who could potentially be looking at going somewhere. Vrabel, you got Pete from the Seahawks that I haven't heard anything.
Pete's in an advisory role. He's just going to be chilling up there.
He's had some adverse comments where he's like, I still want to coach. I was expecting to coach. So I think that if you want a veteran head coach, Pete isn't a bad option, even though he's up there in years as well. Dan Quinn is getting a second interview with the Seahawks as well. I think that would be a big mistake. But they've also, Seahawks are allegedly waiting for the Ravens defensive coordinator, Mike McDaniel, to be available to talk to, which he's done really good things as well. Coming from Michigan college game, I believe, to the Ravens, and then has really looked good as a Ravens defensive coordinator. But either way, I'm surprised. This is what's going to blow me away is if Vrabel doesn't get a job.
Yeah,
Like
that would be
he's
crazy.
definitely a guy that if he sits for a year, it's not going to hurt him.
No,
But
he'll be fine.
when you have
And
a Vrabel out there,
Vrabel's not going to take a job that he doesn't think he has a chance to actually stick at and build a fucking winner.
yeah. And look, if I'm the Commanders, I'm going after him. But they probably want an offensive guy because they're going after one of these young quarterbacks.
Yeah.
So that's probably.
I think that's probably going to be something similar that we see up in Seattle, because I know they just got Geno on a new deal, but Geno is going to start continue. Like, he already took a step back from the year that he got the deal.
So
I don't know if it's going to continue to happen that way. Like, he's going to probably keep taking a little half step back.
Well, this is another. You know what? I'm gonna do the sounder.
It's time for reckless speculation.
Reckless speculation!
There's a lot of talk out there about Seattle blowing it up and trading Geno.
Wow. What? I didn't hear that.
Geno's contract is easily tradable if you are one of these. Let's say you are the Falcons and you don't get yourself a Kirk Cousins in free agency and you're not in position to get one of those top 3 quarterbacks. You need a quarterback, right? You don't get Justin Fields or something like that, which I think Fields might go to the Raiders as a possibility as well. Keep that on the docket. But there's talks about Geno possibly being traded, and he can get traded to someone like the Falcons because they're kind of a quarterback away. And if you think that you can get moderate to okay above average production from Geno with the Falcons, they are immediately competitive, and they probably immediately are the favorites to win that NFC South, even over the Buccaneers.
Yeah.
That they have there. Geno's future with the Seahawks isn't long term, and they don't have a quarterback option there other than Drew Lock, free agent as well, I believe. But that's one of those situations where it's like, hey, we're getting a new head coach in here. They're hitting the reset button. When you fire Pete and no one's expecting it, and you don't have anyone in the wait to take over, good option. That could be a sign, a signal that they are trying to hit a reset button.
Yeah.
And so
very true.
They could be looking to do that. And if they're able to trade Geno and get some capital out of it, then that takes them from being potentially, like a middle of the pack team, right around a 500 record, to a bad record, and it allows them to take a shot next year at quarterback while also getting some of their cap stuff fixed and retooling the roster a little bit. It's not out of the question, but that has actually floated around a decent amount that Geno Smith could be a potential trade candidate for one of these quarterback needy teams that needs someone to get over the hump. So keep an eye on that one.
Hell yeah. Also, great use of the reckless speculation video. Was not ready for that, but man, there's a lot more things that are going to happen. Like the situation in Seattle is going to probably get more testy if that's the case. I was not tracking that, so
this is the thing: is of the candidates that they have been talking to, none of them really jump off the paper at you like this is someone that I think is a long-term successor to Pete Carroll. Dan Quinn is the closest to it, and Dan Quinn's stock has just fucking hit.
You think you'd go try to hire Vrabel, right?
That's what I'm saying.
You got a young,
competitive,
tough fucking defense up there. Like, you could be looking at trying to restart that Legion of Boom, and that's a guy that will lead that group to do that.
Yeah, and a team that I feel like could go back to a little bit more of its hard-nosed roots, where you had the Sean Alexander running the ball for you. You've got some decent running backs and stuff up there. You've got some decent receiver options too. Like, you can get by with Geno if you want to stick with Geno.
Quarterback.
And Seattle's a team that is not afraid to hire defensive head coaches in a offensive head coach style league. Vrabel to me makes a lot of sense, and the fact that they're not aggressively pursuing him makes me feel like something wonky is going on up there. So we'll see.
All right. Well, that was all the head coach. Well, I think we talked about the majority of the head coaches we wanted to hit on, right? We got any more that we have
left?
That's
That's all the new head coaches. Again, we've got those 2 open vacancies. That is barring something happening with Andy Reid where he calls it.
Yeah, which is still on the table, but it'll be, yeah. All right, brother. So that's it, man. Do you got any bets that you're really looking forward to tomorrow? Anything that you want to give to the people?
No, nothing that I haven't even looked at the odds or anything, any sort of same game parlays or anything like that for the games. How about yourself?
I actually am thinking about doing a little parlay first touchdown scorer each game. I'm thinking I'm going to go, and I know, big gamble, but I expect Lamar to play MVP football again. First touchdown, Lamar Jackson in that Ravens game. I also got first touchdown, Christian McCaffrey, 49ers. Parlay that. Let me go ahead and double check here. Oh, no. Log back in, but that's a bet that I like. It is a gamble. That is for sure a gamble. First touchdown scorer is tough. Anytime touchdown scorers are tough.
But those are what's going to win you some money.
That is what's going to win you the money. So Lamar, first touchdown scorer, plus 550 odds. He has the best odds of anybody in that game at first touchdown scorer. And then Christian McCaffrey, first touchdown scorer. Also the best odds, plus 350. You combine those, you can go up to plus 28.25 on your odds. So I'm going to roll with that. I probably won't put shitloads of money, but I am definitely going to put something on there because I feel like those are the guys that are going to really seal the games for their teams. They'll probably have a day from start to finish.
Alrighty. Yeah, other than that, the only other thing that we really had to discuss is that we are hitting into the offseason for a majority of these teams and for your potential prospects coming into the draft. Look, it seems like free agency and the new NFL league year encroach sooner and sooner to the Super Bowl every year. And it's not the case. It just feels like that, especially when you're someone like me that's getting really, really in depth on this shit already. We have the East-West Shrine Bowl happening on February 1st. You already have the Senior Bowl practices and players arriving. That happens on February 3rd. But if you are paying attention to draft prospects, you are having guys going in there already getting measurements and stuff like that. Guys like a wide receiver, Xavier Legette, who I'm a big fan of coming out of South Carolina, looks a lot like Debo, except for I was like, hey, this looks a little bit like a bigger Debo. He's 6'3", 200 something. Well, he's getting his measurements in. He is just about 6'1", so a lot closer to that actual Debo size, and his style of play is very similar. So he'll be a fun one to watch. But you've got that Senior Bowl coming up. That's when you're going to start seeing a lot of stuff come out as far as prospect rankings moving and shaking and changing up. You have your Pro Bowl games that are happening on February 4th, but the Super Bowl is February 11th, right around the corner. HBCU Legacy Bowl game after that on February 19th. And then February 20th, just less than a month from now, is the first day that clubs can start to designate franchise tags or transition tags on players, and your scouting combine takes place 1 month from today. February 27th is the NFL scouting combine at Lucas Oil in Indianapolis. Deadline for clubs to designate those franchise tags and transition players is March 5th, and then open tampering starts March 11th through the 12th, with March 13th being when clubs have to be under the cap for 2024 and the new league year begins. People can start signing and all that. So we are looking at a month away from the scouting combine and less than 2 months away from the new league year happening and free agency. So it is worth getting excited about that stuff if you are like me and Mike and our teams are no longer in the playoffs and are looking ahead to our futures. All right. So again, we got extra content kind of coming to you. Gonna probably have a lot of this draft stuff over the coming month and a half or so from Mike and I, and some speculation about free agent players and things like that, and ways that teams should be aggressively pursuing their futures. So if that's the sort of content that you want, let us know. If there's certain things that you want us to talk about with in that sort of spectrum, draft or free agency or your team specifically, please let us know, because that's something that I'm sure that we would both like to get onto and highlight.
Hell yeah. But guys, with that, we are going to get the fuck out of here and enjoy the rest of our Saturdays. But I'm Mike. That's Evo. This is the Lineman Lounge. We appreciate any time you spend time with us. If you want to watch the show, go to the YouTube, hit the bell, like, subscribe, share with your friends as well. If you want to listen to the show, any podcast platform, you're going to find us. If you want to interact with us, you can go to Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, all of the social medias. We are there as well. But guys, we thank you. We appreciate you. We'll see you next week.